World Fitness Project Tour 1 has come to a close, but we still have a lot more to come.
My legs! I can't feel my legs.
Sorry, okay?
I want to slap you right now.
So my first and overall reaction to watching this first weekend of the World Fitness Project ever was a positive one. I think there's a lot more good here than there is bad, but there were some misses, some things that can be improved upon. But we will get there a little bit later. First, let's talk about the athletes, how they did, and some of the good things here. The leaderboard was really tight pretty much all weekend. We saw a lot of flip-flops of who was on the top, and that makes for a really exciting competition. I think a lot of people going into this thought Jeff Adler and Laurel Horvath were going to run away with this, and it might not be boring, but a little bit less exciting. That was totally wrong. We were all wrong. I mean, maybe someone didn't pick either of them to win, but the majority of people, including me, very much me, were wrong, because neither of those people even ended up on the podium. And part of the reason for that was that final event, which I think was programmed so well. It started out with calories on the rower, then there were some burpees over one of those blocks and thrusters, but then it ended with a 50-foot double dumbbell overhead walking lunge. And the weights on those dumbbells were 70 for the men and 50 for the women. Made a huge difference. We actually saw both of the CrossFit Games 2023 champs struggle in very similar ways on that final lunge. And Laurel Horvath, who we are used to seeing do really well on the final day of competitions and started doing that on the final day of this one, didn't even finish the workout. But overall, that was a fantastic end to a competition. The workouts seemed like they were fairly well programmed. The competition was exciting. The way it looked was really good. I think the broadcast looked very professional. Most of the people on the broadcast were very good at their jobs. I'm not saying all of them were necessarily the best people in the space of broadcasting CrossFit, but they were all solid and did decently well on a team together. Except one blunder I would say would be whatever Tommy Marquez said about Danielle Brandon's jersey here.
Looks like a Pacers jersey. I don't think that's the University of Indiana. It's not their colors. They're rocking a throwback Pacers jersey.
That's an Indiana Fever jersey. Caitlin Clark, one of the greatest WNBA players playing right now, and maybe one of the best ever. Will not say the best, but you know, definitely a name that has brought a lot of eyes to the WNBA sport. Maybe not Tommy's eyes, but other people's eyes. Really awesome athlete. Cool to see Danielle wearing her jersey. I like the graphics. I heard someone say that they were a little bit hard to see, but I think that's sort of the intended look of them. They're overlaid over the screen in a way that they're supposed to be see-through, so you can still see what's going on behind them. So yes, it doesn't make them the easiest to see, but I thought they were still very much legible and kind of like were just present. There was a negative of the broadcast, but I'm gonna save the negatives for the end. So let's stay on the positives and go through the leaderboard real quick. And I mentioned this already, but my picks, trash. All right, I did it again. I forgot to ask you to subscribe. So Carson popped in with me to ask you to subscribe real quick. Lots of CrossFit content coming your way. Click that button below for more. I had a lot of the men that were gonna be in the top 10 correct, but not in the right places, except for Colton Mertens. I had him in the exact place he finished, and a lot of people gave me some pushback for that. But that was the one position I got exactly right. The rest were a little messy. So first place, and I did have this person on the podium, but in third, not first, and those are very different positions. First place was Austin Hatfield, and I really think that he's already sort of put us all on notice, but we need to now take Austin Hatfield into serious consideration to win the CrossFit Games. I do think the CrossFit Games and the WFP is a little bit different, or maybe massively different, in the fact there's less events at each event. They have 3 total events, and there are less workouts at each of them than there will be at the CrossFit Games. And it's a different time of the season. But there is a lot of similar competitors to who we expect to see at the CrossFit Games, just like there were at Mayhem, and Austin Hatfield came in first at both of those events. Austin Hatfield was a rookie last year, finished in the top 10 at the Games, and is just continuing to improve and dominate. Very impressed by Austin Hatfield. Yes, this was a tight leaderboard. He was not in first going into the final event. Jeff Adler was in first, which if you take a look over here, I mean, things went poorly, but Austin is winning among some of the best. And we might need to look at him to win among the best at the Games. In second, we have last year's CrossFit Games winner, and that is James Sprague. James Sprague did better here than I expected him to do. I think it really helped James that the lifting event was only 50 points. It was Pro 4A and 4B. They lifted, then they did a biking, assault bike, his favorite, and a sled push event. And he came in first in that part of it, and that was for 50 points. And he came in 20th for the lifting part of it, which was the shoulder to overhead or the jerk, and he finished 20th in that. Now, if he finished 20th and that was a 100-point event, that lifting, he probably isn't on the podium. I do actually like the lifting as a half event, like it's half the points, versus being the full event, because it really is just one modality. Now, at the Games, you can test a 1-rep max because there are 12-ish events, sometimes even more than that. So because of that, there's enough workouts that can offset that. But when you only have 6 workouts, to have the lifting be 1/6 of that seems like a lot. And now it's 1/12, which is the same as what the Games usually is. So I do think that's fair. And James Sprague had 2 events wins, being that Pro 4B and the Pro 5, which was the rope climb workout. And in third, someone that I've sort of doubted from time to time, but maybe he's helping calm those doubts. Jason Hopper, he finished in third place ahead of Jeffrey Adler by only 6 points, so not a whole ton. And he just had a consistent weekend. I feel like we didn't talk about him too much, like he wasn't doing anything incredible, but he was staying consistent. All right, let's round out the top 10. Jeff Adler, he was in first for parts of the weekend. He had a pretty poor finish on the Pro 4A. Again, the lift, he didn't look super strong there, but his worst finish overall came in Pro 6, that final. He was so close to finishing it, that overhead got to him.
Sprague, Pepper. Tight race, Adler has to go back.
He was sent back, and that took away his podium position. That workout was programmed in a way to push people, to push themselves beyond where they usually go, and it worked. Will Morad programmed this competition well and led to very interesting storylines, which is part of a competition. It's not just testing fitness, while that is a big part of it. It is also having good storylines, because the reason that these events happen is because people watch them. And when you create a good storyline, more people watch. So Jeff fell off the podium because of how that workout was programmed, and programmed well. It'll be interesting to see Jeff come back from this, because I'm very much assuming he's angry, especially knowing that he was the front runner going into this event, for sure. In fifth, we have Dallin Pepper. I sort of expected him to be fourth or fifth. I had him fourth in my listing. He just did the in-affiliate semifinals. I realized that so did Jason and James, but it's just a matter of how well you can recover. And Jason and James surprised me. Dallin finished about where I expected him to. In sixth, we have Justin Medeiros. He did a little bit better than what I expected, finishing in the top 10. I think Justin is sort of coming back. He had a lot of success winning the games 2 times in a row, finishing on the podium in his first games, then winning 2 times in a row. Then he sort of had a slide down. And I think he's sort of coming back and trying to make himself a podium threat again. So top 6, pretty solid finish. 7, Jay Crouch, someone I said to expect to be in the top 10. Roman Krennikov finished 8th, a little bit lower than I expected. He's one of the few athletes here, like Austin Hatfield though, who didn't have to do the in-affiliate semifinals just last weekend. And we could debate whether that may have had an impact on Jeff Adler's performance. Like, maybe if Jeff was resting like Austin was or tapering for this competition, maybe Jeff would have won. You can't really know the answer to that, but it is something to think about. And Roman was one of those few athletes that didn't have to do it just a week ago, didn't have to do the in-affiliate semifinals because he already qualified for the games. And he finished 8th. He had a really big shoulder to overhead lift. That was awesome. And he sounds happy. So I think he's kind of like Colton Mertens, a crowd favorite. And I just mentioned Colton Mertens, and he would be our 9th place athlete and the only athlete I had in the correct position on the men's side for this final leaderboard. And I got so much pushback on it. People are like, how can you put Colton that low? And I just felt with this field of athletes, that's where he would end up. I picked Colton to qualify at Mayhem, and then he did. I do believe in Colton and think he can do really well, potentially be top 10 at the games. But I just didn't think he would be on the podium in this field. And I was exactly right with where he would be. Exactly right. In 10th, a surprise athlete, that is Noah Olson. I don't even think Noah Olson was in the top heat at all weekend, if I'm remembering correctly. So it's kind of interesting that he ended up in the top 10 at the end of the day. Good performance for Noah, who's not really training like he used to in the past and kind of was retired before this. I could continue to go down the leaderboard and talk about lots of names, but they're basically all names because of the way this competition was structured, because they invited a lot of the best athletes and then 10 athletes that had to do really well in a challenger to qualify. So I'm going to put all those names up on the screen so you can see who finished in 11th to 30th. Jonakowski, who finished in 20th, did talk about something in one of his interviews. And also the interviews were interesting. They were really trying to get different athletes and not always interview the same ones, which sometimes happens at the games and at semifinals when the same person keeps dominating. So it was cool to hear from different people. But Jonakowski brought up a good point. It's about getting points. This is not the end of the competition.
That's going to be the plan going forward for tomorrow as well. It's trying to get as many points as possible, and you know, those are valuable for the next tours as well. So yeah, nothing's lost yet. So
let me explain a little bit more. This World Fitness Project is 3 tour events. The champion of the whole thing will be crowned at the final event in December in Copenhagen. So there's still potential for other people to win the World Fitness Project season. There's a possibility the person who wins the whole thing at the end may not be a person that won either of the 2 previous events. And that's because it's about racking up points. So even though today was the end of the competition, it's really not the end of the competition. It's kind of interesting. All right, let's move over to the women's side of things. And again, with the women, the person I had in 3rd ended up finishing 1st. Isn't that kind of wild? But I did get a couple people in the right positions throughout, which was kind of cool. But I think we do have to talk a little bit about Laurel Horvath. She had some home run hits, Pro 5 with the rope climb, something we expect her to do well at.
Composure and some emotion, yes. Horvath.
And she seemed like she was in high spirits after that event. And then Pro 6 came, and there were a couple other events where she just looked a little bit washed, to be totally honest. And then 5 happened, and then I'm like, maybe she's the Laura of old. And then 6 happened, and she didn't even finish. She kept on getting no rep on the overhead walking lunge. She wasn't finishing it, and she gave up.
I don't think anyone saw this coming here. Laura's so strong overhead.
She gave up. She took a last place finish in that event. Well, I'm not sure if she gave up, but mentally there were moments looking at her that she seemed a little bit out of it, that she seemed like she was like, I'm done with this workout. And she went from being in 3rd place before this event to ending up finishing 9th overall. I wonder if she'll say anything about it, if we'll hear anything from her about it, but big surprise, I think, for everyone. I didn't pick her to win Wadapalooza, and I got some pushback on that, although she didn't win, but I did get some pushback on it. And then I picked her to win here because I did believe that she's been super focused on this and that this is her one chance, because she's not doing the CrossFit Games season, to do well in a CrossFit style major competition. There is Rogue, but right now, this time of year, this is her only opportunity or her main opportunity. And I was surprised. But anyway, Alex Gazan finished in 1st place, and I had her in 3rd on the podium. She didn't do in affiliate semifinals this weekend. Both people who won on the women and men's side in the pro division did not do in affiliate semifinals this past weekend. I think that could have had a little bit of an impact on who did well here, but other people on the podium, all the rest, did do it. So who knows how much. Alex, though, looked really good most of the weekend. She finished with a 47-point lead over the 2nd place person, and she's tough. She's strong. She didn't have the greatest overhead position with those dumbbells, but she could just keep them overhead because she is that massively strong. And she's still so young and getting better. I think we're going to see a lot from Alex Gazan, a lot of good things. And I was a little bit surprised when she said she wasn't going to be doing the in affiliate semifinal, that she was putting all her eggs in the NorCal basket, because I'm like, that doesn't give her a lot of room for error. But it paid off here. She did really well here. She's going to take home a paycheck from this. And if she wasn't to qualify at NorCal or whatever this last chance qualifier is, she is going to have a decent year of competing because she did well here and is taking the most points into the 2nd event. So whatever happens with Alex Gazan's season, I think there's argument for it to be somewhat of a success. In 2nd, I'm really surprised by this, and I think she might even be surprised by this, Danielle Brandon. She did really well in one of the events, was interviewed afterwards, and she said she was hoping to finish top 5. And she is on the podium in 2nd place position. I'm not surprised based on her capabilities. I'm surprised just based on where we are in the season that she finished 9th in affiliate semifinals, that she just did in affiliate semifinals, and that she still finished on the podium here. But surprised in a good way. I think she is definitely an athlete we've talked about to get on the podium at the CrossFit Games. She really hasn't done it at any major competitions, not at the Games, not at Rogue. She did it at Wadapalooza on a team, but this is really the first big podium that she's had with this level of competition. And I'm impressed. I'm excited to see the rest of Danielle's season. In 3rd, we have Amy Kringle. I believe she's currently in a 12th place position in the in-affiliate semifinals, which is interesting because she was tied for 11th and higher in that tie break. And I believe some scores have been adjusted by some people making mistakes, like doing the workout wrong. And there's been no major penalties at my point of recording this. There may be some this coming week, but there hasn't been any yet announced as the time that I'm recording this on Sunday. It's really awesome to see her sort of bounce back. She may be that first person out of the games from an affiliate, and maybe not, but she probably has that on her mind, and she's still just focused in and finished 3rd. She was in a top 3 position most of the weekend. Impressive finish from Amy Kringle. In 4th and 5th are the 2 athletes I actually had in 4th and 5th going into this, and that is Lucy Campbell in 4th and Ariel Lowen in 5th. So those picks by me were actually very good, but the rest were not. Most of the rest were not. So, but Lucy Campbell had some really big moments. She won the final event, at least in the final heat. And I think we're going to see top 10 potential at the games from Lucy Campbell. She already has her CrossFit Games ticket and possibly pushing for that podium, especially because she gets to focus now on just training for the games. The next World Fitness Project competition isn't until after the games. She's not a challenger. She doesn't have to do the online part of that. So she gets to just solely be like in on games training now. And she already can finish top 10 in this level of a field. Ariel Lowen just did an affiliate and won it unofficially. So I kind of expected her to be a top 10 still, but probably fall a little short of the podium because she's still recovering. In 6th, Emma Lawson. Happy to see Emma Lawson doing well. She pulled out of the CrossFit Games season because of her back injury, and she did pretty well in this stacked field. 6th place is nothing to be ashamed of when you have this level of athletes. Alexis Raptis in 7th. She was competing really close to home, had a lot of support. I still think there's potential for Alexis Raptis to have a big season, but I think she's still ramping up towards the games. 8th, Olivia Kerstetter. Very good showing from her. She missed the CrossFit Games last season, is in a position to qualify for the games through an affiliate. Did really well here among a very stacked women's field. She's still young. I think she might be 19. Maybe she's 20, but maybe 19. She's very, very young and looks like she can hold her own with the elite women. In 9th, we kind of talked about Laura Horvath already. Disappointing finish for Laura because she came in with the target on her back. People expecting her to win the whole thing. Didn't do it. Oh, and in 10th, Maddie Sturt, who I did have in 10th actually in my predictions. So that one was exactly right as well. Maddie Sturt did what I expected her to do, be pretty much middle of the pack for most things and just do well enough to be within that top 10 throughout the weekend. Again, there are names throughout this entire leaderboard, and I'll pop them up on the screen for you to see. The Wells sisters doing, Brooke specifically, doing very similarly, finishing right next to each other, but Brooke doing a little more poorly than I would expect. I know there's been some talk about her videos for the in-affiliate semifinals, and if she gets dinged and falls down that leaderboard, I don't know how she'll do at Syndicate. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But I think a lot of these women are where we sort of expected them to be. Emily Rolfe is much lower. She did pull out before the final day of competition, but she's still going to get points here. And she finished 27th, not last, beating people that did finish the whole competition. So while she's obviously not going to get as many points as she hoped, she'll still be in a place to protect her pro card for 2026. And she posted saying that it was sort of a disappointment, but going to go back home, recover, and figure out what's next for her comeback. Also, Travis Mayer pulled out as well because he's dealing with a little bit of an injury, I believe. I talked a little bit about the broadcast, how I like the graphics. They're trying to do some cool things with the lighting. I feel like I'm still trying to figure out exactly if I like or don't like that, but they explained to the Buttery Bros a little bit about the purpose of that.
We're gonna turn pretty much all the lights off from the venue, use our lighting rig, and then when these guys are coming onto the floor, they'll do their lifts in just a single spotlight. So it'll look very dramatic and cool. I'm hoping that everybody likes it. I think it's gonna be super awesome.
The Buttery Bros have a bunch of behind the scenes videos. You can go over there and check those out after this. But what I didn't like about the broadcast, and I've mentioned this before, it was not on YouTube. They did it on their own website. They just put up this little video on YouTube that had thousands and thousands of views just saying to go over to their website. Maybe a lot of those people did, maybe some of them didn't. And you couldn't rewind the live stream. You could only watch it when it was happening. They did upload it in full later, but it was way later. Like I couldn't watch Event 5 when it was live, and I didn't watch it until after Event 6. After the podium, because that's when it went up. It didn't go up until the whole event was over. And I watched it because I have to make these videos and needed to make sure there wasn't anything crazy that happened during that event. But other people who don't have to make a video on it might not care to go back and watch Event 5 after they've already seen Event 6 and seen the results of the weekend. So I feel like that's gonna hurt some of their views. More people may have watched it if it was available immediately, like it would have been on YouTube. But because they had to wait hours and hours and hours until the event was completed to see it, I think it probably lost them some viewers. I understand that they wanted to make it more accessible to people who spoke different languages, and they had an AI tool that allowed it to translate immediately. And while that does improve accessibility in some ways, I think putting it on their website and not on YouTube's makes it less accessible. Nearly every smartphone has YouTube installed on it when you get it. So everyone has YouTube. It's also funny that they think that they could do better on their website in some way, shape, or form than YouTube. Andrew Hiller talked a little bit about this on Savan's show. I'll pop up a clip of it. But Mr. Beast has no interest in getting off YouTube.
I love YouTube. I mean, like, you got to think about it like YouTube comes pre-installed on Android. You know, obviously Google owns YouTube, or Alphabet, but also Google, and so people go there through Google. I mean, like, all roads point to YouTube. Yeah. I love being the biggest creator on YouTube. I going and doing my own thing. That sounds stupid.
And while everyone who's watching this video may not be as familiar with Mr. Beast, in the world, a lot more people are familiar with Mr. Beast than they are with the World Fitness Project. But if the World Fitness Project put that stream on YouTube, maybe more people would be familiar with the World Fitness Project now. And it would have been more accessible for people to watch the videos when they wanted to, right after they happened, versus waiting hours and hours for a stream to be uploaded to a website. I just think that was a major miss. I think it resulted in some people not watching some of the events because they couldn't watch it when it immediately happened, and then knew the results. So there was no point in going back and watching it later on. That's my biggest negative, and I think it's something they could easily fix and do differently next time. I understand wanting to make it more accessible for people that don't speak English, but I think they could still do that, possibly on their website, and push people there from YouTube for those streams. Be like, hey, if you're watching us, but you'd prefer to watch us in these languages, go over to our other streams on our website where it automatically translates with an AI voice. And then those might be uploaded later on, which is what we've all been dealing with now, but the English version would be available immediately for anyone who prefers or just wants to watch that, to watch it immediately. Because even if you didn't understand the language, you could just turn it off and watch what happened and still get something versus the nothing that we had while we waited for the streams to upload. Anyway, appreciate you all for watching. I will see you in the next one. There is so much CrossFit stuff going on right now. We have TFX next weekend, so we'll have a preview of that and a wrap up of that in a couple of days. Appreciate you. See you in the next one. Bye.